Hey guys, welcome back. I am Ashish and today we will be continuing with module 2, that is administrative thought. And before continuing, first things first, the PPT of this module would be available to download only after I complete the classical theory as a whole. So hold on to that for that. Till then, enjoy the sessions. So moving on, we have already covered scientific management of F.W. Taylor, and today we'll be dealing with classical theory. We'll be dealing with many thinkers in classical theory, and one of them is Henri Fayol, which we'll be dealing with today. So getting on with it then. Classical theory, which is also known as traditional theory or administrative management theory. Remember these words. You already know from previous sessions what is traditional theory, what it stands for from the sessions of new public administration and so on. So you already know what traditional theory stands for. Traditional theory is nothing but classical theory or administrative management theory. So before moving ahead, I would highly recommend you to watch all the sessions of module 1 first and then watch F.W. Taylor's session also, because I would definitely use some terms and definitions which I've already dealt with in those previous sessions. Links for the playlist for the same would be in the description of this video, so please go ahead and do that if this is the first video you are watching. Moving ahead with classical theory. So to give you a brief idea of classical theorists, there are various theorists like Henri Fayol, Gulick and Ervik, Mooney and Riley, and some people and some books even consider Mary Parker Foley as one of the classical theorists, but that is so to say wrong, because Mary Parker Foley is considered as a bridge between classical theorists and human relations school theorists. What human relations school did was they considered the human side of the organization. As we learn in our future slides, that classical theory basically dealt with just the mechanical side of the organization, and human relations school dealt with the human side of the organization. So Mary Parker Foley is that thinker who dealt with both the classical theory as well as the human relations theory. So she is considered as a bridge between classical and human relations school. So for the sake of our syllabus, classical theories consist of Henri Fayol, Gulick and Ervik, and Mooney and Riley, and we'll be dealing with Henri Fayol in today's sessions. We'll see what classical theory basically deals with in short. So classical theory of administration was developed during the second half of the 19th century. Some people trace it back to even to Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson gave his first essay in 1887, if you remember. That is the second half of 19th century. So classical theory of administration is sometimes traced back to the second half of 19th century. It reached its zenith in 1937 when Papers on Science of Administration by Gulick and Ervik was published. This book is the most persuasive exposition of the classical approach. So what classical approach is, it gives you some principles, some well-defined and pre-established principles, that these principles should be used in an organization. This is nothing but classical theory. What happened in 1937 was Gulick and Ervik gave us the Papers on Science of Administration, and these contained the most exhaustive principles that were ever laid down by classical theorists. So 1937 was so to say the zenith of classical theory. While Taylor focused on shop floor management, we have already discussed this in our previous session of F.W. Taylor. He focused more on the shop floor management, which is nothing but the level where the workers work. So shop floor management was the basic focus of F.W. Taylor, while classical theory as a whole focuses on the organization as a whole. It is concerned with the formal organization structure as well as the process of management. So it deals with both the organization structure as well as the process of management. Its characteristic features are, these are only some of the features. We will study these features in more detail in our feature slides. So to give you a basic idea of what classical theory deals with, some of the characteristic features of classical theory are division of work. There should be division of work in every organization. We will deal with this in detail in our feature slides. Do not worry about this. Hierarchy, impersonality, order. There should be order to each and everything, each and every process. There should be a structure to each and every organization. So these are some of the features of classical theory. We will deal with all of these and many more in detail in our feature slides. However, division of work is the central tenet of classical theory. Whichever author or thinker of classical theory you pick up, whether it be Fayol or Gulick or Ervik or Mooney and Riley, all of them focus mainly on division of work. They say that division of work is very important part of any principles of organization. So division of work is the central tenet of the classical theory as a whole. Also, like Taylorism, like F.W. Taylor, classical theory advocates the concept of economic man. What is the concept of economic man? That man as a human being is only motivated by monetary factors, only motivated by money. He is not motivated by social factors, his friend, his psychological factors. He is not motivated by any other thing. He is just motivated by money. This is the concept of economic man. So as we have seen in our previous session of F.W. Taylor, Taylor propagated the concept of economic man. On very similar lines, classical theory also advocates the concept of economic man. So, continuing our theme concept, the classical thinkers firmly believe that the efficiency and economy of the organization can be maximized when it is established in accordance with certain fundamental principles. As I have already said, classical theory basically gives us some well defined and pre established principles. So, what classical thinkers believe is that efficiency and economy of organization can be maximized only when it is in accordance with some principles, and they give us these principles, that these are the principles that if you apply will increase the efficiency and economy. Formulating principles of organization became their most important concern. This is but obvious. They also believe that administration is same everywhere. That is, administration is administration irrespective of the nature, type or content of work. Administration is universal is what they meant. Administration is same everywhere, and that is why these principles can be applied everywhere and anywhere. This is what classical thinkers believe, that administration is same everywhere. Hence, they concluded that principles of organization have universal validity. As I already said, these principles can be applied everywhere because administration is same everywhere. So, moving on. Today's thinker is Henri Fayol. We'll learn about Henri Fayol now. So, basic background of Henri Fayol is that he was born in France in 1841. He worked as an engineer. If you remember correctly, F.W. Taylor was also an engineer. In a similar way, Henri Fayol was also an engineer. He worked as an engineer in a mining company. By 1888, he had risen to the position of MD of that company and whatnot. Based on his experience, he wrote a book which is known as General and Industrial Management. This book came out in 1916. General and Industrial Management. Now, since Henri Fayol was a French guy, the name of this book was different in French. We'll see about that later. This is the English translation of the title, General and Industrial Management, which came out in 1916. His papers on the theory of administration in the state in 1923. So he gave us some papers in 1923 which were titled The Theory of Administration in the State, and these are considered as a major contribution to the theory of PUBAD as a whole. These papers of Henri Fayol are a major contribution to the theory of public administration. Fayol is also considered as the founder of managerial approach. Now you will understand this why in our future slides, why he is called the founder of managerial approach. You will understand this very clearly, do not worry about this, but for now you understand that Fayol is also known as the founder of managerial approach or the management process school. Now, some fun fact about Fayol: although scientific management was by F.W. Taylor. If you remember, scientific management was by F.W. Taylor. So although scientific management was for long considered an American invention and rooted in the writings of F.W. Taylor, Fayol's writings in fact precede those of Taylor. A major paper by Fayol on general principles of administration was published as early as 1908. So in 1908, Fayol published one paper which was titled General Principles of Administration. It is no wonder that many historians of European management thought consider Fayol as a pioneer of scientific management. So historians and thinkers of Europe consider Henri Fayol as the pioneer of scientific management, and what Americans have done is they have given the name of father of scientific management to F.W. Taylor, but there are many historians in Europe who still consider Henri Fayol as the pioneer of scientific management. It is a pity that just as in case of Weber, Max Weber is a German thinker. We'll learn about him in our future sessions. So it is a pity that just in the case of Weber, the importance of Fayol's ideas was discovered outside Europe only after the translation of his works into English. So as we already saw, Fayol was born in France. He was a French guy, so whatever he wrote it in French. And his ideas did not become popular outside Europe because they were basically in French, and outside Europe the most prevalent language was in English. So his works were recognized outside Europe only after his works were translated into English. For example, Henri Fayol's Administration Industrielle et Generelle. As I already told you, this was the name of his book in English after it was translated in English, General and Industrial Management. In French, the title was Administration Industrielle et Generelle. This book was first published in France in 1916, but it did not come to light in the English speaking countries until its English translation was published in 1929. So as you can see, in France it was published in 1916, but only after it was translated in English it was known to outside world in 1929. So people had no way of knowing that a person named Henri Fayol even existed. And this is the same thing that happened with Max Weber also. Max Weber was a German thinker, so his writings were recognized outside Europe only after they were translated into English. So basic takeaway from this is that many historians of Europe still believe that Henri Fayol is the pioneer of scientific management. Moving on, there is some controversy with terminology. The terms administration and management have acquired some controversy after they were translated into English from French. So as we know, Fayol's work was translated into English from French. So this work of translation was done by Constance Stores. Constance Stores translated into English the French version of Fayol's book. Fayol used term administration in French version, which was translated to management by Stores. As we have already seen in our previous slide, French title was Administration Industrielle et General and English title was General and Industrial Management. So as you can see, the term administration was translated into management, and this has acquired some controversy. This created confusion as well as disagreement among scholars. Some scholars like Erwick, Brody and Wren, these scholars, they say that the term should have been translated into English as administration and not management. Brody goes on further to say that if one has to go by Stoss translation, one cannot avoid the feeling that Fayol was mostly concerned with industrial management. As you can see, the English title was General and Industrial Management. So what Brody says is, if you go by Stoss translation, you get the feeling that Fayol was dealing with industrial management, which was not the case, which would be a mistake. This is what Brody says, which would be a mistake. The better and correct term would have been business and general administration. So Brody says that the correct term would have been, Stoss should have translated it as business and general administration instead of general and industrial management. The correct translation would have been business and general administration. So this is the controversy that has acquired over the years, that translation is wrongfully done. So moving on, basic ideas of Fayol. We'll see what Fayol basically dealt with. The first idea that Fayol gave us is that the administrative theory is universal. It is same everywhere and anywhere. So the administrative theory is universal. A widespread tendency in the Western countries of those times was to draw a distinction between management and public administration. They said that management was an activity confined to only conducting industrial or commercial undertakings, and public administration was the art of conducting government activities. So this was a distinction that was being drawn in Western countries during those times. What Fayol said was, such a distinction between management and public administration is false and misleading. He said that the meaning which I have given to the word administration, this meaning broadens considerably the field of administrative science. So the field of administrative science is considerably broadened by the meaning which I have given to the word administration. What meaning did he give? He said that the administrative theory is universal. This is what the meaning he gave to the word administration. He said that administration is same everywhere. It embraces not only the public service but enterprises of every size and description, of every form and purpose. So every organization deals with administration. He says that administration is same everywhere. This is what the meaning he gave to the term administration, and he said that this meaning given by me broadens considerably the field of administrative science. He further says that all undertakings require planning, organization, command, coordination and control. I have prepared a mnemonic to remember this. That is nothing but POCCC. Do not confuse this with Potscop of Golik and Erwick. We saw the Potscop model of Golik and Erwick in our very first session of meaning, scope and significance. We will see that again in our session of Golik and Erwick. So do not confuse this with Potscop of Golik and Erwick. This is another mnemonic to remember these 5 elements given by Taylor. POCCC: planning, organization, command, coordination and control. So Fayol says that all undertakings require planning, organization, command, coordination and control, and in order to function properly, all must observe the same general principles. So these general principles can be applied everywhere. We are no longer confronted with several administrative sciences, but with one which can be applied equally well to the public and private affairs both. So administration is same everywhere. Administrative theory is universal, is what he meant by this. According to Fayol, totality of activities of an industrial undertaking. If you take an industry, a factory, an industrial undertaking has 6 basic classifications of activities. All the activities of an industrial undertaking can be divided into 6 groups. These 6 groups are: first group is of production, manufacture and adaptation, which is nothing but technical activities. Production and manufacture, all these are technical activities. Another group is buying, selling and exchange, which is nothing but commercial activities. Buying and selling, these are commercial activities. Then comes your financial activities, which is nothing but search for an optimum use of capital, using capital judiciously, and searching for capital is nothing but your financial activity. Security activities, which is nothing but protection of property and persons. Accounting activities, which is nothing but stock taking, balance sheets, costs, statistics. And the last group is nothing but managerial or administrative activities. Why this? Because there was some confusion with respect to the translation of French version to English version. So the last group, as propagated by Fayol, can either be managerial or administrative, based based on what translation you take into account. If you think that management is the correct translation of the French word, then you go with managerial activities as this last group, or you go with administrative activities as the last group based on your perspective. So administrative activities consists of nothing but POCCC: planning, organization, command, control and coordination. So these are the 6 basic broad groups of activities of an industrial organization that Fayol says every industrial organization consists of. Fayol further says that irrespective of the nature of organization, whether the organization be big or small or simple or complex or non-industrial or profit making, whatever be the nature of organization, irrespective of that, these 6 activities are always present in all types of organizations. So this is how Fayol says that administrative theory is universal. Moving on, Fayol gives us 5 main elements of management or administration, whatever the controversy side you are on. So 5 main elements of management as given by Fayol are nothing but POCCC. So the first element is planning. As you can see, Fayol used the term prévoyance in his French version of book. So this French term prévoyance got translated into planning, and this is the correct translation because prévoyance basically means to foresee or to anticipate or to make plans. So this is the correct translation. There is no controversy behind the term prévoyance. So Fayol used the term prévoyance and this got translated into planning. Fayol's views are nothing but we should examine the future and draw up a plan of action. This is nothing but planning in Fayol's eyes, that we should examine or anticipate the future and we should draw up a plan of action for that future. The plan should have the characteristics of unity, continuity, flexibility and precision. This is nothing but planning. Organizing, these are all simple words. Okay, so organizing is nothing but needed to create a structure of duties and functions for the attainment of the objective. Every organization has some objective, so for attaining those objectives we create a structure of duties and functions, and this is nothing but organizing. Fayol classified these activities into 2 categories: the material organization and the human organization. We will deal with this in future slides in more detail. Third one is command. He said that command is needed for setting the human organization in motion to achieve the objectives of broader organization. So if you have to motivate the humans, you need command. Command is necessary for that. Coordination is the 4th element of management. He said that it consists of working together. It is coordination. Coordination means nothing but working together and harmonizing all activity and efforts so as to facilitate the working of the organization as a whole. And the 5th and the last main element of management is nothing but control. There should be control by an executive or supervisor. So to ensure everything occurs in conformity with established rules and expressed commands, there should be control over all the things in an organization. So Fayol gave us these 5 elements of management: POCCC, planning, organization, command, coordination and control. Moving on, Fayol also gave us some attributes of a manager or administrator, what attributes a manager should show. So these attributes are: first is physical attribute, which is nothing but he should be in good health, vigor and appearance. So first attribute is physical. Second attribute is mental, that he should have the ability to understand and learn. Judgment, he should have the ability to judge. He should have the mental vigor and adaptability. So this is nothing but the second attribute, the mental attribute. The third attribute is moral attribute, that he should have firmness and willingness to accept the responsibility. Fourth attribute is the general education should be there with the manager. General acquaintance with matters not belonging exclusively to the function performed. So he should have the knowledge of functions being performed, and apart from that he should also have a general education. He should have a general acquaintance with matters which do not belong exclusively to the functions performed. This is the 4th attribute, the general education. The 5th attribute is special knowledge. He should have a special knowledge of the functions being handled. So he should have a general education of things apart from the functions being performed, and of the functions being performed he should have a special knowledge. Apart from general education, a special knowledge of the functions being handled, be it technical special knowledge or commercial or financial or managerial, he should have this special knowledge. And the 6th and the final attribute is he should have the experience, the knowledge which arises from the work proper, or the knowledge which arises from after having worked for a number of decades or years. So he should have that experience. So these are the 6 attributes that a manager should consist of as given by Fayol. Now what I'll do is I'll stop this session here and I'll deal with the principles of management in a brand new session, because principles of management require in-depth understanding. So the link for the second part of Henri Fayol would be in the description of this video. Peace out.